From JRE 2252, only 1% of ancient Egypt may have revealed its secrets.
Egypt was crazy because Egypt is like Greece in that you have like, you can go to the Pantheon and you see that kind of stuff, right? But you go to Egypt and there's 4,000-year-old paint on the walls. And you're like, what? I can't get paint to stay on my wall for 10 years. Like, and it's almost exclusively because of the climate, and it got buried in sand. But it's so wild. So wild.
When you say that 1% of ancient Egypt has been discovered, what do you really mean by that?
Of the percentage of what we know that happened in Egyptian history, 1% has been excavated in terms of what we can actually pull out of the ground and look at artifacts. So there's whole eras of pharaohs that we don't know where they're buried. Like even when Tutankhamun was discovered, he was kind of a footnote in the pharaohs that we knew about at that time. And we didn't know he was, as extravagant, as rich as, until we discovered his actual tomb. Mm-hmm. A lot of people at that time didn't even think he was worth looking into, because we have these lists of pharaohs, and the thing with the pharaohs is that the next pharaoh is always trying to prove that he's the better one. And this is why you go to Egypt and you find statues of Ramses everywhere. And part of it was because Ramses, I think it was Ramses II, he commissioned so many statues of himself. Because he's like, oh, I'm the best. I'm the greatest. And what they couldn't keep up with the commissioning, and they started actually rubbing off the names of previous pharaohs on statues and just putting Ramses on it.
Really?
Because
wow.
he was just, so you go like from the top of Egypt to the bottom of Egypt, and you're going to find statues of Ramses.
He wanted to leave his mark.
And he did, right? Like it worked.
We're talking about it now in 2024.
I know.
Yeah, that is nuts. So when you go there and you're in the presence of these things and you try to put yourself back into that time period, like have you ever tried to think, like, what was the motivation to make something as great as the Pyramid of Giza, the Great Pyramid?
People definitely want to make their mark, right?
Right, but that's a mark that just doesn't even make sense.
There's something to that. I mean, if you think you're a god,
right,
and you have this whole kind of worldview perspective and theology that you need to make something that and bear yourself with all this crap because that's going to make a difference in your afterlife, mm-hmm. then you're going to go big rather than going home, right? So, the perceptions of people in the ancient world are just so different. We got it so good right now.
Oh, yeah.
Like longevity, health, mm-hmm. Food mm-hmm. is just on a completely different scale. And so the conventions of needing to make sure that, especially if you're like the richest guy around, that you tick off all the boxes because you're going to die, and you're probably going to die sooner than you want to, sooner rather than later. And you have this whole perception of, well, if I bury myself with all this stuff and maybe even some of the people, we're just going to kill them and include them too, because they're going to help me out. That's going to help me out in the afterlife.
You need slaves in the afterlife if you're a pharaoh.
Yeah, of course you do.
You can't just
Why
go
not,
by yourself.
Right? Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So Khufu's pyramid, what's the timeline that he was even in power?
I don't know. I'm not an Egyptologist or an archaeologist necessarily, but he was, I think that was like 4,000 years ago. We only really have a tiny little statue of him.
That's
we don't
nuts.
actually have that much about him.
I guess he was busy making a pyramid.
So they say, right?
So they say.
Billy thinks different, but
a lot of people think different. That's what's interesting about it is the archaeological argument that like Dr. Robert Schoch makes about the water erosion in the Temple of the Sphinx.
Yeah,
that's a fascinating argument because it does appear like that's water erosion. And that would put the timeline way, way back.
Yeah, I think even just looking at the Sphinx, you can tell that no matter what your perspective is, you should entertain the idea, at minimum, that the head was built later.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it doesn't fit the body.
It has much less erosion. But you could also attribute that to the different densities of the stone. Like that's one of the things about these layers of limestone. It's like some of them are much more porous and some they erode easier.
Yeah.
You do see that.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing a terrible disservice by covering the Sphinx with like new stones, and they redid the paws and they're doing all that. Like, my God, people, like, leave it alone. Like, leave it the way it is.
Yeah, it's this tricky balance between
restoration and recreation.
Yeah.
Because they're in a recreation stage.
Yeah.
And it was obviously they're doing it with smaller stones, and it like looks different. It's not the same thing. It's not what it initially was. It was carved from one piece of stone.
Have you seen some of the restoration stuff that Saddam Hussein did in Iraq?
No.
Jamie, you got to pull up the ziggurat at Ur.
Oh, no.
So Saddam Hussein was a bit of a nut job, but he believed, as far as I understand it, that he was the recreation of Nebuchadnezzar.
Oh, boy.
So he did all of this restorative work in Iraq on things like the walls of Babylon. And in Ur, he rebuilt the ziggurat. Whoa. So if you look at that picture over there that says 1932 and 2022, that's what he did, is he basically tried to rebuild this entire thing.
Wow.
And it's amazing. I am trying hard to get to Iraq because I wanna see this thing. Interestingly enough,
die.
Yeah.
Don't die, dude. Don't go over there.
So that's actually Ur.
So I'm sorry, but so this is the modern version with the small bricks. The original version, was it all carved from one piece?
No, it would have been clay bricks.
So these were clay bricks. So what do we? Jamie, can you go back to the 1930 image, please, so we could see what it looked like? God, I would rather just have that. I mean, I want to see what it looked like and what it looks like all these years later. I don't want to see a recreation, which is very similar to what they've done to the Sphinx.
Yeah, the Sphinx. Even when I was in Egypt, they were doing some work in like.
Can you, Jamie? Can you go to the rehabilitation of the Sphinx or whatever they would call it?
Yeah, I just clicked on like the ruins of it. I was going to go back to the 30s or 40s or something.
Well, the restoration part is the interesting part. Like, you could see the restoration. If you go to just Google restoration of the Sphinx paws.
Well, they're talking about putting encasing stones on the pyramid.
Yeah, I've heard that too. God, don't do that.
I don't think they should do that either.
No, you shouldn't do anything. I mean, obviously, they took the original casing stones off, but that's also history. So now you can see, like, the new paws. Well, that seems like the difference between buried and unburied.
Yeah.
So, like, even when Napoleon came upon, like, right there, like, isn't that restored?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there was much more erosion then. When Napoleon came upon it, it was buried, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that was the case.
Like, over time, because you're dealing with these crazy sandstorms, over time, everything gets kind of buried.
Oh, so much of it is under sand for so long.
When people ask me about the best thing that I did in my life, I say two things. Number one, that I restored the Sphinx. I brought the proportions of the Sphinx back. And I restored the oldest pyramid in Egypt, the Step Pyramid. It was falling down. In 14 years, I made major important conservation and restoration. And I tell people, why do we have to fight all the time about the age of the pyramid? We have to fight, or we have to cooperate, all of us, to restore these monuments. And the most important thing is for me always is conservation. And I dedicate most of my life not only to the excavation, but to conservation.
What do you think the arguments are that predate, that try to push the date back of the construction of the pyramids?
I never heard of this.
You've never heard of this before?
No, it's only new. It's a theories from the new age.
But I saw a debate with you. I saw a debate with you and Graham Hancock, and there was another archaeologist.
That was
hold on. The other archaeologist was saying, if you're saying that something happened 10,000 years ago, where's the evidence of any civilization from 10,000 years ago?
Exactly.
But then you found Göbekli Tepe. So Göbekli Tepe was buried over 11,000 years ago.
That's not true. I never heard about this.
What do you mean it's not true?
It's not true what I told you.
What is not true?
It never happened.
Tepe?
We never discovered this at all.
Wait a minute. Göbekli Tepe is in Turkey. Okay.
Oh, in Turkey. Listen.
Yes. Göbekli Tepe is in Turkey. I know. But more than 11,000 years old.
Okay, fine.
It's very complex stone structures.
Fine.
But this was the evidence. Hold on. No, this is the evidence in the argument. The argument was there was no evidence of an ancient civilization from 10,000 plus years ago. This is before the discovery of Göbekli Tepe. Göbekli Tepe gets discovered, known to be more than 11,000 years ago. that changes everything. Because
No.
now we know. Yes, it does.
That's
'Cause
changed
now,
for
hold
what?
on. Because now we know there was an advanced civilization capable of spectacular construction 11,000 plus years ago.
This is what, listen, look at the archaeologists in Turkey or in any civilization.
Okay.
They never talk about old civilization.
That's not true. Göbekli Tepe is universally
Okay.
accepted
Okay,
as being
Joe,
more than 11,000 years
I
old.
am talking now about Egypt. I'm not
No,
going
I
to
understand,
another
but the
civilization.
argument was that there was
What
never
I-
any ancient civilization capable of spectacular construction 10,000 years ago.
That
Now that they showed Göbekli Tepe is more than 11,000 years old, they know for sure that's not true.
Okay, but now I'm talking about the pyramids of Egypt. I have the evidence, the written. We found everything about that. We know the dating. And I give you hundreds of evidence that this pyramid built by Khufu or Khufu.
No,
or
I'm
Menkaure.
not saying it wasn't. I'm not saying it wasn't. What I'm saying is
any civilization older than we know,
older
we
and
have
still
no,
in the same spot.
We
How
have,
old
we have
does it
no,
go back?
We have no evidence.
So how does ancient Egypt emerge?
Emerge. We have.
How does it emerge and go from zero to pyramids?
Okay, we have. Do you have? Can you listen to me?
Yeah.
We have prehistoric Egypt,
Right.
and we have the old Stone Age, Middle Stone Age, Neolithic, when the Egyptians began to know about agriculture, and they began to live together in communities. Then after that, we came to the pre-dynastic, when a king called Narmer, in Dynasty 0, he began to make unification of the upper and lower Egypt, until one king called Mina or Horaha, who united completely.
And what year was this?
This is war was 3000 BC, 5,000 years ago. In a place called Abydos, they built huge mud brick tombs. Huge. From mud brick, no stones. And these tombs are created in a site called Abydos.
You know, what's really fascinating about this is that 500 years, you think about that, how different just modern civilization was 500 years ago. 500 years ago, we had almost none of the inventions we have today. We had no internal combustion engine, no hardened steel, none of the things that we have. And now look what we have with electronics. Now imagine what the Egyptians were able to do in 500 years in a different way, in construction with stone. That their advancements weren't like our advancements, but their advancements were equally spectacular, just in a different way. Do you base the dates on? Do you base it on carbon isotope?
No, we don't. We
No?
based dating on the evidence that we discover.
Right, but
Like
some of it
dynast-
is based on carbon, right?
No,
Carbon testing.
I don't believe in carbon-date 14 at all.
You don't?
No.
Why not?
Carbon-date 14 never give an accurate dating. And this is why I believe, when you discover something, if you discover a symmetry,
Right.
there is two types of datings. One called absolute dating, means that in this symmetry, you have a name of a king and a date. This is absolute. But if you discover another symmetry and has no dates, then the best thing that we do is to find the artifacts in this symmetry and try to compare it with other dated symmetry. And you give a date for this.
But I'm curious as to why you're skeptical about carbon dating, because I think carbon dating is generally accepted as being accurate within a certain framework.
It is, but
right?
I never used it. And many people, very rare to use it in Egypt, because in Egypt, mainly, we have absolute chronology. We have absolute dating based on inscriptions.
Right, but I thought it was used in Egypt, like to measure wood that was in mortar.
I
To
don't know.
date the Great Pyramid to 2,500 BC.
No,
I thought
that was an experiment to date the pyramid. I think was about 2009, and it's not working.
But
I didn't see the result.
you haven't seen a result on carbon testing of the mortar of the Great Pyramid?
No, but the
No?
mortar, you can't. One thing, the mortar between the stones,
Right.
This mortar, like if you take a piece of stone from the pyramid and you try to take carbon-14, this piece of stone could be thousands of years in the quarry. It cannot date a pyramid. How can you
Well,
date?
hold on. You don't date stone.
I'm saying if you date mortar,
Okay.
how can you say accurately that this mortar is dated to the same time of building the pyramid?
Well, you can actually. That's the argument is that there's probably repairs done, right? And so
Of the pyramid?
Yes.
No, of the Great Pyramid, there's no evidence
repairs,
of any
there's
restoration.
no renovations, no restoration,
never,
nothing?
Never any accurate evidence that the pyramid was restored
Right, but
in any period of the Egyptian history.
Talking of pyramids, dude, this new pyramid shit that's just come out.
Oh, this is insane. Yeah, I was going to send this to you as well, Jamie. I'll send you one of the most comprehensive breakdowns of it on X because it's quite stunning. So apparently, through the use of LiDAR, they have discovered that there are enormous structures underneath the Great Pyramid that go kilometers deep into the earth with coils. So enormous pillars, and then these coils. They don't understand what it is because they're just looking at LiDAR images. But whatever this is a uniform structure. There's several pillars. And all of this is like very, very, very weird.
Yeah, it's 600 meters descending down those cylinders, and then there's more stuff below it, and then there's additional structures inside of it. Yeah, that was crazy.
It's really crazy. There's a guy, Jay Anderson, and he did a breakdown of it. Maybe this would be good. We could play this. It makes a little more sense when someone's explaining it to you.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we need somebody that's an expert here, not me and you.
Zawi Hawass, by the way, has said it's nonsense. So I don't know.
Already?
Yes. According to Graham Hancock. This is the wonderful thing about having Graham
I texted
Hancock's
Graham yesterday. I was like, yo, what's going on with this?
Yeah. So click on that and go full screen, please.
How significant of a discovery this is.
Dun, dun, dun. I love the music. And geometry, so you know it's real.
You got to appreciate the dramatic intro.
Project Unity.
What has just been announced in relation to the pyramids at the Giza Plateau and the plateau itself is so incredible, so awe-inspiring and narrative-shattering that I have been sitting here for the last hour trying to wrap my head around the implications of what we were just told. So this is pretty much breaking news because the new findings were announced on the 16th of March at a press conference held by the team who were studying the Great Pyramid of Giza with a non-invasive technology that was first developed by Filippo Bionde and Corrado Malanga called synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography.
Fuck, that's a
This
mouthful.
was used to explore the internal
Chiropractor
structure
talk.
of the Great Pyramid of Giza. And this method leverages the analysis of micro movements typically generated by background seismic activity to achieve a high resolution full 3D tomographic imagery of the pyramid's interior and subsurface components. The recent findings from deploying this technology are nothing short of mind-blowing, because what's been discovered is that there are huge structures coming down from the base of the pyramid deep into the bedrock, in fact over 600 meters deep, which then connects to structures that extend up to 2 kilometers below the surface of the ground. 2 kilometers. Massive internal structures connected to the base of the pyramid and extending deep, deep down. This is what we know so far.
What does your friend think about it?
Which friend?
The one that you said it's bullshit.
Oh, that's not my friend. That's Zawi Hawass.
Okay.
Zawi Hawass is the head of antiquities in Egypt. He's like the head guy that talks to the archaeologists and gives the official narrative. In the past, he's been extremely hostile to Graham Hancock, but Graham Hancock and him have now become friends.
Oh, yes. I
And
do
they're
know this guy.
Coordinating. Graham is a lovely guy. People that like are enemies with him just need to get to know him and hang out with him. He's a genuine, real human being who's trying to find the truth.